Hi everybody, welcome back. We're going to continue the physics talk, so let's just get started. Now for this one, I'm not sure actually what is going to be next. So let's go to the physics section and we'll go to rigid body. So for rigid body, let's actually click rigid body. Now a rigid body gives gravity to our object or motion. So let's say I put this up and I add this collider back and I hit play. And hopefully I'm in the line of sight of the rock so I can see it. So as you can see, it bounces. The reason it bounces is because I have this physics material that I added in the previous video. Go back and I remove it. And now I hit play. This time it shouldn't bounce. So now when it falls, as you can see, it just falls straight down. That's what a rigid body does. You could ask mass, so this is pretty much the weight of the rock, so I could increase the mass, so that helps for gravity. When it's falling, it actually falls quicker or slower depending on the mass. And also for, as you can see, it moved a little slower. And also for, let's say my character bumps into the rock, it doesn't move it because of the mass. It's much greater than my actual character. And then there's drag. Now drag, let me put it back to 1. Now drag is air resistance, so it will actually like push the rock back up. It won't push it back up, but it will slow it down because air is, invisible air is pushing the rock a bit, so it's actually, slowing it down and adding a drag to it. So as you can see, kind of floated almost like if it was a feather. Move it way up, and let me pause it, unpause it, and as you can see, it's slowly falls down like a feather, like has wind hitting the bottom of it. Hopefully that makes sense. Angular drag, same thing, but for when it rotates, when it's spinning. Use gravity, so if you don't want it to use gravity, you could actually untick this and it won't fall, it will just stay in the air. So as you can see, it just stays in the air. So what this would be good for is, let's say you want to be able to move, let's say this rock, and you want to be able to move it with the rigid body force. So you would want to be able to move that rock and be able to also be able to use the variables and parameters that the rigid body has. That way you wouldn't create your own from scratch. And you could also have it where you use gravity for a couple seconds and then you don't, and then you do. You could do that through code. It's kinematic. This is useful, or this should be checked when you're gonna move a rigid body game object. So any game object that has a rigid body, if you're gonna move it through code or through script, you should have this checked. It'll be a lot more performant and helpful. It's not necessary, but it's more performant. Interpolate. Now this smooths out the actual, I think it's movement before and after each frame. So let me actually open up the reference. Interpolate, I think it does it before each frame, so it smoothens out each movement before each frame. Extrapolate does the same thing but after each frame. So go to interpolate, says it smooths the transform based on the transform of the previous frame, and then extrapolate does the same thing, but it estimates the transform of the next frame. And then there's also collision detection. So if you want it to be discrete, if you want it to be continuous, and let's go to the documentation for this. So discrete, if you want it to have discrete collisions against all colliders. For discrete collisions detection against dynamic colliders with the rigid body, and sweep based against, so pretty much if your object is too quick or is moving at high speed, use continuous. Continuous dynamic detects against game objects that are set to continuous and continuous dynamic, and this is used also for fast moving objects. There's also continuous speculative, which this only can set to kinematic bodies, so it's for kinematic bodies, and it tends to be less expensive than sweep based continuous collision detection. So hopefully if that makes sense. If not, leave it to discrete. I always leave it to discrete. I've had to use continuous once or twice, but if you see that your collisions are not working for some reason, that you have your collider on correctly and you have your rigid body and it's still not working, then switch to continuous dynamic. There's also constraints. So let's say so we're using gravity. Let's say you want to freeze the position on the Y for some reason, so you don't want it to fall down, but you don't mind it falling or moving side to side, and you could do that. So as you can see, it's not gonna fall. But as soon as I uncheck it, it falls straight down. So now, if the mass is not too much, I'm able to push it. As you can see, I can push it around. Yeah, it doesn't have a large mass to it. Now I can't push it because of the tree, but over here, yeah, I could push it around. Then I could freeze all the positions. I could freeze the rotations. So if I don't want it to rotate on any axis, if I don't want it to move in any position, I could do all that. And then there's also this stuff right here. So when we hit play mode, this info tab gets updated, and this is just for debugging purposes. So we could see the speed and it halted. So and then now we could see the positioning. So if you see I'm pushing it and the speed's changing, the velocity's changing, the angular velocity, all that is changing. And like I said, it's just for debugging purposes. You can see the sleep state is asleep right now. If I actually hit the rock, it awakes. And yeah, that's pretty much that for the rigid body. Let me see how much time we got. Yeah, I'm gonna cut it short again. I'm gonna keep these videos short unless you guys want me to make them a little detailed or more longer, whatever. If I'm not explaining myself correctly, just leave me a comment below. I'll be happy to help you guys out. But yeah, if you guys want to see a certain video or if you guys need help with anything, just let me know. I'm happy to help when I can. And yeah, thank you guys. Hit that like and hit that subscribe button to help me out. If you guys learned anything, hit that like button so I know that you guys are liking these videos, that you guys are getting some kind of use out of these videos. And once again, thank you.